Rusty. I'd like to sit down. I'd like to thank Rusty for organizing this and his committee, and the wonderful food and the wonderful music, and what else? Everything was wonderful. Just thanks for the wonderful everything. I know I have something else to be thankful for. My team, Tour de Peace team, and all the support that we have gotten from across the nation. So, gosh, so much to talk about. So much already happened tonight that I'd like to comment on. First of all, Rusty was probably running around looking for vegan food for me, because I'm a vegan. And so, it's getting easier. How long ago was that? Like 8 years ago? Now you can usually find vegan food, but I've added a different challenge to my diet. I'm gluten-free. So I'm a gluten-free vegan, so there's hardly ever anything for me to eat anywhere. But, and Jackson Brown. Yes, he's my favorite singer-songwriter. And after my son was killed, I didn't listen to music for over a year. I couldn't even listen to the radio. Music has such an emotional response for most people, I think. You know, you hear a song, you automatically remember where you were the first time you heard it, or if you were making out with somebody once when you were listening to it, or whatever, right? Am I right? And so, that's why I couldn't listen to any music. It was just too hard for me. Jackson Brown's one of the albums we used to put on every Saturday morning. I'd get up, we'd make pancakes and sausage, and we'd have, with the leftover pancakes, we'd play pancake frisbee. This is when my little kids were when my kids were little, and when we moved, I had to literally wash the dining room walls from pancake splatter before we could move out. And then I put on either a Jackson Brown album, these were in the days of the albums, or Graceland by Paul Simon. And as soon as I put one of those records on, my kids would start cleaning their rooms. So I did an experiment once. This was a few months ago. I share a house with my daughter and her family. She has 3 kids. I have 4 grandbabies now. And so the kitchen was a mess. And I resent always having to clean it up. So I went into the kitchen and I plugged in my iPod and I turned on Graceland. You know what? My daughter got up and started cleaning the kitchen. Not even kidding. I had her conditioned start cleaning when she heard Graceland. So tell her I did that. And so anyway, I was speaking at, oh yeah, I wanted to thank the church too. The UU churches are fabulous. I've spoken in UU churches all over the country, and I always know that an atheist, a recovering Catholic atheist, will be welcome in your midst. And I'm sure you have quite a few members that fit my profile. And so I was at a Presbyterian church in Pasadena that's well known for its activism. The minister actually, they were going to take his nonprofit status away because I think before the election he preached a sermon called "Who Would Jesus Bomb?" And so they were going to, you know, they were focusing on him and said he was being political, and they were going to take his nonprofit away from him. So I was speaking at this big event that I knew Jackson Brown was at. And I had gotten there late, and the place was packed. And I knew Jackson was going to come up and sing a song after I was done talking. So I was super nervous. But I was kind of looking around and I saw him. I was like, oh my God, it's you! And I had already talking about how much I loved him, and I've been a fan since I was like 11 years old and stuff like that. And so he came up and sang, what's that song? The song about the troubles in South America.
Lives in the Balance?
Yeah, Lives in the Balance. But when he gave me a hug, he goes, you are an amazing communicator. And I thought, wow, coming from a super amazing communicator, that is like the biggest compliment that I could ever have. So then he picked me to give him an award. Like a year later, he got an award from the Boston Peace Abbey, and he asked if I could present it to him. And so his girlfriend came, but she sat in the back and let me sit next to him in the front, so we pretended like we were on a date all night. Well, I pretended like I was on a date. He was probably thinking, oh my God, this is getting to stalker status. But every year he sends me a thing of ginger snap cookies. I can't eat them because I'm gluten-free, but everybody else really likes them. So he's my pretend boyfriend, but not because he's like really handsome, but he is really handsome. It's because his songs are so meaningful that when you sing for a dancer, I mean that is like, the line where he says, I don't know what happens when people die, I can't seem to grasp it as hard as I try. It's like the song I can hear playing right in my ear. I can't sing it, but I can't help listening. To me, that's one of the most profound little snippets of a song that's ever been written. And his wife committed suicide, so he had written it for trying to figure out what happened and why that happened. So that song's very touching to me. You know, having buried my own son, it's very meaningful, but it's very hopeful too. It's like, this is what we're going to do, this is what's going to happen to all of us, so how are we going to make meaning out of the life that we have for so short of a time? And so we struggle as activists. I know I do. Yeah, every day's a struggle. And some days it's very frustrating because you don't think you're making any difference. But you know what? We don't have to worry about that. That's not something, we still have to do what we know is right, whether we think we're making a difference or not. Because there's going to be someone that you touched or something that you did that is going to be very meaningful or help somebody that you might not ever know. And so that's what keeps me going. You know, that we have, whether we're riding our bike across the country or working, you know, on our cooperative initiatives and whatever we're doing, or even just going shopping at the store, you can make an impact where you are. And with what you're doing, even just smiling at somebody, you know, helping somebody, whatever, and then you might not ever know the profound difference you made in somebody's life, but that doesn't matter. If someone came up to you and said, you know, what you're doing is right, but you're never going to know if you made a difference, would you stop doing it? No, we wouldn't stop. I wouldn't stop doing it. I hope you all wouldn't stop doing it either. So I'm hopeful. I know Malcolm said he's not hopeful. I'm very hopeful that because we existed and we're doing what we're doing, the future is already better. We've had, yeah, you can clap. So, you know, we've had so many people before us that we know of and that we don't know of who really sacrificed so much of themselves to get us to where we are today. And I always think, how bad would we be if it wasn't for someone like Harriet Tubman or Susan B. Anthony, or, you know, whoever. You know the people I'm talking about, Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, all those people. How much worse? Things are pretty bad today, but how much worse would they be if it weren't for people like that, right? And so the thing is, though, he also, in one of the songs you sang, no, it was Rick's group, about the Buffalo Springfield song. We're always trying to divide, you know, saying we're right. If we're right, then you must be wrong, you know, and if you're wrong, then I must be right. But I think most people, not all people, I can name some people that are the exception, have good in their hearts. Most people want a healthy community. Most people want security, and they want their families to be safe. They want their families to be happy. We want the same things, but when we're all concentrating on what's going on in what I like to call washed up deceit, you know, then instead of making community where we are, we're making division where we are. And I want to tell you, those people up in washed up deceit, they have their own best interests and the best interests of the people who line their pockets, and that's not us, at heart. They are more unified than they appear in public. And we in our communities know what's best for our community, know what's best for our family, and we have our best interests at heart. Very few people in washed up deceit have our best interests at heart. I almost said nobody, and that's probably true, but I don't like to be absolute. You know, there might actually be somebody in washed up deceit who's thinking about us all here in Amarillo, Texas. So what we do locally, what Toby's doing and what you all are doing is trying to build those bridges, right? What Washington, D.C. or washed up deceit or washed up disease wants us to do is build walls between each other, right? And so when we try to create community at the local level, building walls, you're walling yourself off from your community. You're not like blocking anybody, you're walling yourself off. And most people want those bridges. They want connection with their community. So that's what Tour de Peace is about, as Malcolm said. We're taking 90 days to go from Vacaville, California, where I live, and one of my friends, and I was in Austin in March, she goes, "Why do you call it Vacaville? It's Vacaville." She said, "You should call it what the Spanish would call it, Vacaville." And a little while later, we were talking about the tour, and she goes, "I hear you're going to Amarillo." I said, "Shouldn't you call it Amarillo?" Isn't that what the locals would call it? So she had to shut up. You know Patrice, she's like that. She's a Camp Casey, one of our Camp Casey friends. So anyway, that's what this tour is about. It's not about the destination of washed up deceit. It's about 90 days of connecting with community and connecting communities. It's about the journey, not the destination. And I know I've been on this ride now since April 4th. We started at my son's grave in Vacaville. It was the 9th year that he has since he's been killed in Iraq. It was pouring down rain that day. I know this tour has already made me a stronger, better person. And it's just been almost like a miracle. And I want to go see Toby's Mariposa, but I want to get on my bike and go. I want to go to Groom, but I think I want to go a little bit past Groom. Not stop there. I've seen a picture of that big cross, and that kind of scares me. And just get back where people can see our van. And the most support we got was on Route 66 in New Mexico. People going by and really getting what we were trying to do. Yeah, they can see us riding, and even if I'm riding by myself, but Dan usually joins me on the ride. You know, I know there's many, many people whose spirit I'm riding in, but it's the same thing. If I do it alone, or if I do it with 17,000 people, I do it. You know, just get up in the morning and do it. Do something. I don't like Nike. I'm not going to use their slogan. Just do it. But people think that there's some kind of magic formula to being Cindy Sheehan. And I say, guess what? This is it. I wake up, I throw my feet over the bed, and I go left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And you just move forward. Not be paralyzed with fear, not be paralyzed with frustration. You know, we've been frustrated. We were frustrated in Dallas. We were frustrated because we tried to get people to take a street that they had already cleared for us, the cops. It's like, it's already clear. Why don't we just march down it? They didn't, but I said, we can't let their fear affect what we do. We can't let other people's, we can't take that on us, right? So, so many people get paralyzed with whatever it is you're paralyzed with. But the important thing is to get up every morning and put one foot in front of the other and just do something. Right? I didn't know Camp Casey was going to turn into what Camp Casey did in Crawford, Texas. The first night, I had 6 people spending the night with me. And I had promised that I wouldn't leave until George Bush talked to me. And I'm not like a politician. When I make a promise, I keep it. Right? And so I was there with 6 people thinking, what the F did I do? You know? It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was still 98 degrees. And of course, you all know about all the bugs and everything, the rattlesnakes and the Republicans and everything like that. And so I just really thought, oh my God, I have a way of just saying everything that pops in my brain. You know, it's like, what are you going to do if he doesn't meet with you? I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to just, until he meets with me or till he leaves. And so that turned out to be wonderful. It turned out to be a spark that reignited the anti-war movement. And if I hadn't have gone out of my comfort zone to sit in a lawn chair by the side of Prairie Chapel Road, that wouldn't have happened. And another thing Americans are so intent on is staying in their comfort zones. And we all have, I even have a comfort zone. It's like way farther than most people. But we all have one. The key, I think, to successful activism is being brave enough to go outside your comfort zone. To talk to somebody you might not talk to, or whatever your comfort zone is. Just step a little bit outside it every day. And I think that's the key to success. If I hadn't sat there, nobody would have known. There wouldn't have been any place for these 17,000 people to come. But you know what? Before my son was killed, I never would have imagined I could do anything like that. Before he was killed, I thought if I lost one of my children, I'd have to go to bed for at least a year on heavy medication. I never imagined that I would be forced out of my comfort zone, right? So we're going from California, like I said, to washed up DC, and we're taking Route 66, like Malcolm said, to Chicago. Then we're going from Chicago down various ways to Washington, D.C. And we get there on July 3rd. I actually have a flight out of there that night, unless I get arrested, which usually happens when I'm in that for some reason. I don't know. And we're going to just hope a bunch of people join us at Arlington Cemetery, ride our bikes across the bridge, the Memorial Bridge, and just encircle the White House, just to let him know and let the establishment know that we're there, what our demands were. Yeah, I don't think that I'm going to get to D.C. and present my demands and they're going to sign off, check, oh yeah, we never thought of that. Oh yeah. And then, but what it is about recreating a movement that we lost. You know, 2005, 2006, we would have hundreds of thousands of people in Washington, D.C. Now we're lucky to get 1,000. Why is that? Nothing's changed. The wars are still raging. We have more wars than we did before. You know, the new president has approved more offshore oil drilling. You know, they say, oh, don't approve the pipeline. The pipeline's already approved. You know, it's already burst in Minnesota. It's burst in Oklahoma. It's burst in Missouri. How can a pipeline that hasn't been approved yet keep bursting all over the place? Right? He's supported more immigrants than any other president combined. He's increased drone strikes by 500 or 600% over Bush. Assault on our civil liberties. He has a kill list. He has said that it's okay for him to assassinate any American anywhere in the world without a trial. What if Bush had done that? What if McCain had done that? What if Romney had done that? There would be they'd still do it, but there would be more of an outcry. So we need your help. Nothing is going to change in this country or the world without a majority of us not just calling the White House, signing petitions. We need to get out in the streets. And we need to shut things down. And we need to tell these people that we mean business. But it has to be more than 3 of us. It has to be 3 million of us. 30 million. Whatever, because, you know, you were talking about all of the poverty in this town. And the hunger. We spend trillions of dollars every year on the military. We have to address that issue first. We have to say, bring the troops home. Close those hundreds of bases all over the world. You know, not only would it help us here in the United States, it's a win-win situation for the world to end the U.S. empire. You know, it's going to end. It's going to end one way or the other. All empires end. So it's not a problem with resources in this country. It's a problem with prioritization of the resources. And we have to say our children and the children of the world are more important than your profits. Our families are more important than your profits. Our communities are dying because of your wars, because of your empire. And we have to feel that. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, children. We have to get out of our comfort zone, and we have to get out of the idea that partisan politics destruction is what it is. And we have to get out of that idea that someone in D.C. is going to save us. We're the ones that have to save our families and save our communities and save our children, whether we have children or not. And the environment, if we end the war as an empire, the environment also benefits. Because the military-industrial complex uses the most fossil fuel of any other entity on the planet. And everywhere they are, they poison the environment. So can you imagine a country? I can imagine a country where all of the plants that make helicopters, hello Bell, that make tanks and guns and drones, all those plants, if they were making trains and light rail and more bicycles and buses that run on clean, renewable, sustainable forms of energy. And if we stop giving subsidies to those evil oil companies and start using that money to create, with the technologies already there, invest in clean, renewable, sustainable forms of energy. Wouldn't that be a wonderful country that invests in its people, not in the profiteers? You know, we can have Medicare for all. We can have free education from preschool to university. You know, we can have healthy food as a right, free of GMOs. We can have housing as a right. You know how I know we can have it? Because in 14 years, Hugo Chavez transformed Venezuela to the kind of country I'm talking about. We can do it here. Why couldn't we do it here? Well, the only reason we can't is because we're not demanding it. We're not demanding our human and civil rights. And I believe that if we really got together, we could transform this country to the vision of a healthy nation. And that's why I have hope. Man, if I didn't have hope, I wouldn't get up in the morning. You know, I'd be home playing with my grandkids and growing radishes. Right? And so I think that there's lots to look forward to. But start here in your community. I'm going to run for governor of California in 2014. And this is going to be the vision I'm going to tell my state. And I know it can be done in my state because I used to live in that state back in the 60s. I lived in that state that did all these things. And we, you know, I think the hardest thing that we have to do is to convince our neighbors that we are worthy of this society, this vision of a wonderful society. We're worthy of it. And another thing that we need to convince people with is that we are the ones that have the power. I think people are afraid of their power. Because if you are convinced that you have power, you can't sit there and not act. You have to act. So, I'm just very excited. I'm very excited to be on this tour. I'm very excited to be here for the first time in Amarillo. This is the first time I've ever spoken in Amarillo. And I think, do we have time for a couple of questions, Rusty?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, put the press release. You'd be available for questioning.
Oh, I'm available for questioning. So anyway, thank you for everybody for contributing to this very wonderful event tonight. And if anybody has any questions, again, thank you so much. Questions? Okay. absolutely a first. Okay. Yes.
I haven't heard anything say, and I'm sure I've heard people say it, but I haven't, that we do not live in a democracy. And all our politicians talk about our democracy and what we're going to do with our democracy around the world, and they talk about it in our schools, and all our children grow up believing the word democracy, and then they end up wondering, well, what's wrong with democracy and why doesn't democracy work? It doesn't work because we don't have it. And I think that we really need a new constitution in this country. We need to change it from a so-called representative republic to a representative democracy, where the people are in charge for the first time.
Well, I fully agree. I must have went to a better school because I never was taught we lived in a democracy. I was always taught we lived in a representative republic. But, yeah, democracy, they say we're spreading democracy to other countries when we don't even have it here. We don't have it in the real sense, and we don't have it in the theoretical sense either. And so, especially if you work in communities, democracy is the best form of decision making. And so, we should have democratic workplaces where the people own their company, and the decisions are made by the workers and the people who the decisions affect. We should have democracy in our elections, which we don't. And so I mentioned Venezuela and Hugo Chavez, and when he was elected in 1998, they put together a constitutional convention from people from all over the country, came and rewrote the Constitution. They didn't amend it. Our Constitution can only be amended by the elite. See, realistically, the ones that benefit from it, our Constitution, are the ones that can amend it, the elite. In Venezuela, the people are the only ones that can amend it. And they call for a referendum, and it goes to a vote. They're the ones who wrote it. They're the ones who ratified it. When our Constitution was ratified, it was ratified by the white property owners. It was written by white property owners. It was ratified by white property owners. And realistically, that's who it still benefits. And then it might not be the white male property owners. It might be some females and some people of color, but they've all been subsumed by that system. So, we think we're going to get a woman in office and she'll help us, or a person of color. Well, what it ends up doing is they govern based on that white male property owner mindset, for sure. And so, yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think that we should rewrite the Constitution, and it should be the people that write it this time, and the people that ratify it this time. And it should be as the most inclusive representation of the United States as possible. The ones who, but that's so far, I think, in the future. I think getting together in our communities and our cities and deciding on democratic ways to make decisions. Cooperatives are run democratically. Most credit unions are run democratically. And so there's so many things that we can do to make our lives that matter more democratic. When we go into a voting booth, that's like the smallest, little, tiniest thing that probably doesn't even make any difference that we can do to make our life, to have meaning for our lives, right? It's like every day after that, creating these systems that are healthy. I think that is most important. And I think, did you have a question? You have a question? And then Zen? You?
I was raised with if you don't vote maybe don't complain. But, you know, I'm a very wise young man for a son who says, when I vote, I'm perpetuating the system. And I was wanting to hear what you had to say about that. Also, my aunt in Oregon, who found out what I was doing this evening, asked if you would speak to the lies being told at the W Library, I'm assuming about the rock twist.
Well, George Carlin has a brilliant bit about voting. And he says, first of all, he says, oh, I better not say it, there's kids here. How do I edit what I'm going to tell you? How do I change from George Carlin to G-rated? Well, he says that if you vote, you can't complain. Because if you vote, you're getting what you asked for, right? And so basically what your son said, you're voting to perpetuate a system. And I'm not sure what lies are being told at the Bush Library, but of course there is going to be revisionist history. Even Barack Obama went and said he admired George Bush for his leadership after 9/11. Leadership? When he climbed up on that pile of rubble with the bullhorn, I'm like, that's more like a photo op than leadership. But that's why we can't stop either. You know, this is recent history. We all know the truth. We can't let the elite get away with their lies. You know, so Karl Rove, I'm sure you all love him. Remember him, Bush's brain? I don't know. Do you guys all remember who it was? He said, Turklossen, he said that George Bush will be ranked among the great presidents like Lincoln and Roosevelt. I'm surprised Karl Rove said Roosevelt. And whomever else, I don't know. So that's like the biggest revision of history that I could ever think of. Like Rusty said, he went from 60% to 40%. When he left office, he was like at 23%. I was like, what are all these people live in Dallas? You know, all at 23%? Because God, there was like thousands of them at the thing cheering this monster. You know, just incredible. I can't believe that that anybody would think somebody at 23% approval rating goes down as one of the best presidents in American history. Some man came up to me and was, "Are you Cindy Sheehan?" I was like, yeah. He goes, "George," first he said, "Do you have a job?" I said, "Yes, this is my job, annoying you." And apparently I'm very good at it because you seem very annoyed. He goes, "George Bush tried to make peace for 8 years." I said, "Get away from me, okay? Get out of my face. I don't even have to listen to you anymore." Sin, you had a...
Quick question. What time do you ride out tomorrow, and what can we in this room do to support Tour de Peace?
That's an excellent question. I'm thinking we're going to ride out from the Nat on Route 66. That's like supposed to be haunted. I have a book called The Spirits of Route 66, and I read about it.
6th in Georgia.
Yeah. And so, 6th in Georgia? 6th in Georgia. And we have to go grocery shopping before we leave. So I'm thinking we're going to leave at 10. So if anybody wants to ride out of town with us, as far as you want to go, that'd be awesome. We have many ways you can help. I think a lot of you signed up for our email alerts. You can spread those around. When you get them, you can share them and all over the country. I know you have contacts all over the country because we're going to be all over the country. We have a basket. That's my real bicycle basket, and we pass it around for donations. I know some of you already donated. And t-shirts, the t-shirts that we have on, we ran out of them, but we have 2 mediums left, right? They're $20 each, but if we don't have your size, you can go to our website, Tour de Peace, and order a shirt. They usually come within a week after you order them. So there's, share our group on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, we have a group called Tour de Peace. Like us. That sounds so, that sounds so high school, doesn't it? We're so popular. Please like us. And then just spread, I think mostly spread the word. We've had a couple of big organizations send our website out and things like that. And we're starting to pick up some momentum. So anything that you can do to help would be great. It'd be great to have some company writing with us too.